Hello and welcome to this Level 4 video. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and this is a part of my Energetic Systems series. As I said, this is Level 4, so if you are new, please know that there's a plethora of other videos underneath this, which would definitely be a better place to start down in Level 1 if you are new. Links in the description. For those of us who are not and who are sort of following along with this series, I would like to now jump into the external boss, the external of the external. Now, hopes of not being confusing or redundant, I just want to give a quick model of the triad of creation, the sort of splitting that helps us dissect and look at a system. So we have a whole system, and that whole can be looked at with three parts, right? The external, the internal, and the flow between the two, and what the work it's doing, the energy, what it's actually processing and doing. With this splitting and looking at each system within that sort of sections, it helps us to see the internal processings that are really taking place. And then we better understand the appearance of a whole when we have taken time to look at the pieces that make it up. Right? It's basic logic, basic common sense, nothing new or important, but that's not important, but you know what I mean. It's not newly important. The point is that if we remember when we're looking at a system that it holds those three reflections within it, and then each time that we choose as the observer, as creator consciousness, to correct our focus and dive deeper into a segment of the system, we choose to look at that system as a whole at that moment, right? We are consciously diverting our attention and focusing it in to one thing, and then looking at it as the whole at that time. And when we do that, we see the three reflections again. And anytime and every time we do this working, that practice, we will see them. Now that's one whole part. The secondary part, and what we'll talk about in the second section, like I've already talked, is that overall appearance, that polarity, the external presentation of the whole system, of what those workings are doing, right? And so here, in Level 4, when we're talking just about the external, now I'm going to jump down. We're refocusing our lens, right? And we're looking at the external boss. Oh, no, shoot, I wanted to do the external internal first. No, this is where things can get a little bit confusing. And look, maybe actually I'll just leave this like this video, because it's helpful and honest and transparent to showcase an understanding to people that this is not like some kind of solidified information that I have, that I have like gone over and dot my T's and cross my I's and really spent a lot of time on to like coagulate and pull together. I am simply following the given truths at the moment and seeing what they present to themselves. I mean, yeah, I spent a couple of weeks maybe in real time, putting this together before I actually put this video out. I'm a couple steps ahead of myself. But I'm not coming at this and trying to present this like I'm like a master alchemist who's like spent 40 years over the same course and been able to fine tune it and everything. So yeah, there's slip-ups and there's confusion. But when we step out of the chaos and remember the truth, just like I just did, you see the error and you remember what you're talking about, because really there's only three things that I want to talk about, and I want to start with the internal, because always when no matter where the orientation is at, the internal is always the marker of the first layer. You know what I mean? The first place to start and to have a firm footing in for us. And so excuse me for saying the external boss. But first, what I would really like to talk about is the internal boss of us and of your external systems. And what does that really mean? There's many different varieties and tasks that the internal boss is a part of. But the internal boss works on the same level and speaks the same language, right, as your internal boss itself and your inner core. They are the same flavoring, the same coloring, and they have the same sort of likeness to them. Even though they're in separate parts of the system, they are mirrors of each other in a likeness. And the internal boss of you has a lot to do with things like your immune system, things like your gut and how your intestines and how you process food and how you bring in external food into your body and process it and then process through that which does not serve the system anymore and let go of things. See the inner workings, though? Do you see and hear the feminine qualities of that work, right? That is available in this external work. Because the external world, like I talked about in the last videos, there's never-ending scenarios and circumstances that have transactions with the outer world and you. But to take it to the first inner boss and to see the basics of things like breathing, sensing temperature, eating, going to the bathroom, all of these kinds of things, blinking, spitting, all of these workings of our body, our external presentation that meet the outside world and that exchange with the outside world. Those are the external bosses, job. That's under their umbrella, their oversight. And it's not just that either. This is a great thing about having some kind of scientific relevance to be able to have some keywords to put onto things is helpful, but also it's more chaotic because it's full of distortions actually. And you don't need background knowledge of science, anatomy, or physiology to go and talk to your external boss or your inner boss. They will show you and tell you all of these things. You have infinite knowledge from the building of your body, from just being in your body. There is infinite intelligence available of consciousness, whether you want to call it unconscious or subconscious or whatever. It's available there for you when you choose as the whole creator, as the God source of your divinity here, your body, your vessel. When you choose to put your attention and intention into diving deeper, you will find always more. You will always, if you take time to look and listen, find something. And that's the beauty of infinite manyness, this discovery that we're all a part of, And you can experience it, learn to love it, learn to get a feel for it right inside your own self. You don't have to do anything, go anywhere, know anybody special, or be anybody anywhere. It's for us all. It's all right inside us. And when you go in there and say, have a talk with your internal boss here about all the workings of your body, you will learn and you will be shown and see all of these sort of things. Like, they have names for them. The center channel, Kundalini energy, the chakra energy centers being like wheels. You will hear and see and be shown churning and turning inside of you like plumbing. You'll be shown how the breath comes down and spirals out. These are things that I came to, and then I found external confirmation after the fact of being shown in it internally. And think to yourself, how many things have you thought of or been shown internally, thought inside your imagination or your mind's eye, whatever you want to call it, had a gut feeling about, had an intuition or an inkling about, and then external confirmation shows you, oh, it is true. Much like if you look at ancient Vedic information or the ancient, more Eastern Chinese philosophies and all of these sort of metaphysical understandings that they had about the body. It's taken science hundreds of years, to be able to prove and show with their little dots of evidence that confirm it. But it does confirm it. And so that should be enough proofs in the pudding for you, sort of, to be able to trust your own instincts and to be able to go inside and seek those answers. And when you start in your direct world, the external world will then call forth to you confirmation of what you're seeking, right? And when your external internal boss has a conversation with you, knows it's seen by the Creator, knows what the Creator wants and has a purpose and a desire, it will go and it will ask and it will send out impulses, cymatic frequency, whatever you want to look at this as, in that external torrido that's flowing, seeking out that, calling it back, asking for retribution for its beautiful service, asking for support and comfort, and seeking and looking to draw it back in for you. And it will, and you will draw it back in through the roots and through this external meeting of the world that we're supposed to really be drawing in these nutrients through, drawing them up and into you, and bringing in those personal bits of confirmation that nobody else even feels or knows. They're little nuances. When something special for you happens, these little, we call them synchronicities, right? These little tiny nuances, these personal implications for you that nobody else gets or would understand, or oh, it's coincidence, or oh, it's just this, it's the RAS, it's that system that just activates and notices things because you're thinking about them. It's like, yeah, that's the function, and I understand, nice that you put a label and a name on it. But function doesn't determine purpose. Purpose determines function. But there's your great inversion again. The science world is full of these inversions, trickery. They flip it on its head, and then they get you all screwed up, and then they get you to give away your power because it's all flipped on its head. But truly the power is within us. And when you ever choose to correct it or see the truth in it, you will. And the thing with external manipulation that happens, sometimes we get false confirmations, or you get these sort of false insights, right? False flags, or whatever you want to call them in your own life. Those are really this false, or not false, but it's a distorted echoing because you have a false idea of what your real inner system's doing. You've turned blind eyes to some things, and you've got shadow running your inner system. And the shadow is the loud one on the speaker calling forth. Even though your light and your positivity maybe isn't paying attention to the shadow, it doesn't speak the same language as it, so it tunes it out, and it's just like, oh, it's not doing anything. But really, it's louder, and it's calling forth a lot of disruptions that will be pulled into your world. That happens a lot. And that happens continually. Even people who are active in their light and shadow work, alchemists doing daily hygienic work, there's still shadows to be seen. There's still ripples and effects. There's always going to be some forms of distortions. It's not about ridding distortion. It's about seeing it for what it is and asking it where it's coming from, following it back and seeing if it's a necessary distortion or not. Because we are here. We've been manifested down into 3D for a reason. There's purpose. So it's not to, rid and cast out everything and only be light, that is another kind of manipulation and inversion that happens when they attempt to put a false positive mask on and trick people with false positivity. They put that flavoring on. But anyways, when we have done good inner work and you've balanced and you've heard your shadow make these sort of excuses and you've worked through them with your own shadow and you've watched your shadow create distortions that now external shadows are doing similar work to you, you recognize it for what it is and you can better offer them solutions and you don't put up with it. And, one of two things happens when you don't put up with BS from other people. Either they correct their distortions because they're really seeking correction, or they rebuke and they avoid you, and they get out of the peripheral of that cymatic sense of truth resonance because they're not ready to recognize it, and they really do want to continue to hide, and so they make their way away from it. And we're going to get more and more into that when I talk about the external boss, and we can talk about how we really interact and relate with others. But for now, for this video, what I really kind of wanted to just focus on is this more external internal workings. Like I said, so that we get a feel for it, we can understand how in this external toroidal now most shadows present themselves, negative and positive seeking looks like. Excuse me. Because it is different. They're the same in that positive seeks truth and negative seeks to distort truth. However, the alignments are slightly different versus what they were for the internal core. And the internal core, depending on what you're aligning with, sets the ripple effect to what's happening on the external toroidal and what's available to the flow of the external. I'm just going to talk about organic for now because we'll be here forever if I start talking about both. Hopefully most of us are seeking organic alignment anyways, and really if you're following my channel and my content, I'm assuming you're seeking a positive balance. So I'm just going to stick with the positive alignments. So the internal core being negatively aligned and being flowing this inwards organic, taking in of nutrients and energy and light on all different many layers, right? That inner vortex core is always indirectly connected to the external toroidal. They're always feeding each other and working with each other, right? And so the external toroidal has an overall seeking a positive balance, and within its 3 sections, it looks to seek that balancing. And when we talk about the external internal boss and systems, those are the more negatively aligned, organically negatively aligned systems. And so their truths and their seekings will be to service the self directly. But the self is an extension of source. And so because you're serving the self as an extension of source, it will keep and maintain an overall positive balance, and it will seek to work with the overall positive workings of the external boss. And I'm not going to get into the spirit right now. We can get at that after. The internal boss is always in a perspective and a consciousness that has the inner core in mind. It's directly connected to it. It has the self at the center of its service. And so not only do we see it working through things like in the body with our immune system, our blood cells, our circulatory systems, these real physical sort of systems that are really doing a great in and outtake of nutrients and molecules and stuff that we can witness and watch. There's also those sensory other systems that are under the umbrella of this the external internal boss, right? How you take in energy, how you take in auditory and sensory information, how you take in all types of chemicals and things like that on your body that you come into contact with, right? How you take in energy as well is a huge part of that. And the rules that the boss works under set the tone of what's going to happen here. Now, this is a big, important role in boss to play because they set the boundary of what is allowed to pass in and out from your inner to your direct world. And it's a porous boundary. And And we'll be talking just a little bit about this in a secondary video about empowering your lattice work, light and love lattice work around you, or aura of protection, or bubble of protection, however you'd like to look at this sort of multi-dimensional, multi-layered protection that you can cast around yourself and set in your own sovereignty for your own self. Because it's really crucial to do that and to have that knowing in resonance inside of your being as a truth, because it keeps your whole Taurus really flowing, and it keeps your energy positive. It's a good checkpoint to keeping that positive balance of polarity. And what does that mean in direct language is because when we seek to maintain positive alignment overall, and we seek great service to the self as a creator being, as a reflected creator essence, all of us the same in this oneness. When we have this sort of solid foundation of knowing and truth, it permeates like a ripple effect through all of the layers of the work. And in the internal boss's world, in the external internal boss's world, this is like the heavy lifting gym work for the strength of your defensive army and your offensive armies, right? All of those the people you want to be strong, that are going to defend and protect you, this is their workout. This is the nutrients they need. This is the proteins they need to build their strong muscles. All of that is either fueled, invigorated, and empowered by your connection to truth, or it becomes depleted. It becomes harmful, and it takes away from the strength of that army, that whole sort of many, many layers of beings and of transactions that happen with the army, right? And it's important to understand this as a filter that you have conscious power over. Because if you set it in motion and you charge it and keep it that way, it will always protect you and always be there for you, if you choose and believe that. But if you don't, or if you have holes, or if you have reasons and faults for that, then it's going to call and let in things that are not of your highest good. And basically, it's as simple as understanding in this metaphor as your army, or your immune system, that which protects you, right? When you breathe in outside air and there's toxins in it, and you take in all these things that this air bubble has a bunch of things in it. It has the things you need, like oxygen and nutrients and light and love, but it also has toxins and things that you don't need. When you have this strong lattice work of light and love, this filter, and you believe in it, and it invigorates your army and strengthens you, when you breathe in, your consciousness fuels that working on every level and layer. And as those chemicals and all these processes are happening, you take in what you need. What each level and each boss needs, it feels comfortable and known. It is secure in its truth, and it knows what it needs. And it grabs what it needs. And as it also, in this grabbing and taking of what it needs, and the truth of residing and knowing of what you need, you also know what your system's already processed and needs to get rid of. You know you've got a bag of trash right there ready to go. And you hand it off. You don't feel guilty or burdensome that you have this trash. It's going to happen. It's part of the process of the system. It's the known output, And so you hand off that, and that goes on its train reaction to be taken away. And down the line of the bosses and the workers and all this who are taking what they need and handing off what they don't need, those toxins that were out in the air to start with will never make their way into anywhere that could harm you. They will stay contained in the container with the trash to go back out. Because it's trash, your body knows it's trash. It doesn't want to take in things that it doesn't need and doesn't serve its highest good. So it will keep it on the output trash mode, and on your exhale, along with the CO2, will go those things that were harming your body or could harm your body, like toxins in the air. I won't even get into the names of them because I don't want to have my videos marked and stuff. But know that, yeah, there's plenty of them and they aren't good for you. And but if you have faith and knowing in your consciousness, in the power of your being, of your sovereign right to life, that you're a creator being, and you know that your filters work and you will not take on things that don't serve you, then you won't. And that will work beautifully. And you will always pass off things that don't need you. Your systems will align to that, and they will get rid of things that they don't need inside of them. Conversely, if you don't even have a consciousness to even work through that kind of thing, the bosses and managers are left on their own to kind of do the work and to do all of the heavy lifting. And if your army's already under a lot of stress and you live in a lot of delusions and distortions, and you have a negatively aligned system running inside of you, your army's probably sick and tired of working and falling apart and letting in whatever it can and just trying its best to just make it another day, you know? And like I talked about in the last video, that atmosphere echoes down, you know, and it causes ripple effects. And so don't be surprised if you don't have a conscious hygienic working, that no matter how healthy you try to eat or how many healthy changes you try to make or how much vitamins or how much detoxing you try to do or whatever, that you have a residual negative overall issue afterwards. You will. Because it's top down from your truths that this, you know, that is not aligning with the truths, really. You know, it's a top-down sort of distortion happening instead of a top-down truth seeking. But anyways, now I've talked a little longer than I wanted to. Thank you so much for listening to me on this brief introduction to your external internal boss. I hope that you will take time to do some meditative exploration. Like I said, sorry, my nose is super itchy today. Like, keep feeling sneezes coming and little tickles. Hopefully, you'll take some time to do some of this meditative exploration and sit and listen and try to get into a conversation with this external internal boss and see what nuances and differences you can find in this boss versus the boss of the internal, you know, and then see them together and know and allow them to have good conversations. See if your external internal has maybe an ego problem or a social problem or something with your internal boss, and that's totally happens, you know. But when you do the seeking, you'll see for yourself where those things are at. So yeah, I'll leave the video there for now. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to hear anybody's insights or your experiences or things you've learned from your own bosses in there. Feel free to leave them in the comments if you'd like everybody to see them. That's always great for others to see people's comments and replies. But you can always send me emails if you'd like to be more personal. That's fine as well. Thank you always for your beautiful contribution to our collective, and thank you so much for witnessing mine. I will catch you next time.